Do a quick tour of Photoshop, where things are, some of the basic tools, and what you need to know to get started. If you don't already have Photoshop open in your computer, an easy way to find it after it's installed is you go to Finder, Applications, look for the bright blue PS folder, double click, and it'll launch. Sometimes it takes a minute. I already had it open, so it didn't. Before I can do anything, I need to pick a file to work with. I can make a new one. I can choose from any of my old ones here, but I'm going to make a new one. You don't need to worry too much about these things just yet, but you do need to worry about these things. This is where you name your file. Always name your file. Please don't call things untitled. It makes it harder to find on your computer if you lose it. So I'm just going to call this practice. Over here, your width and height for how big you want to make your picture. You can work in pixels or inches. Please don't work in points or picas. Over here is your resolution. Typically you're going to work anywhere from 72 to 300. 300 is like really nice. It's the amount of pixels per inch. So if I have 300 pixels per inch, that's going to be a pretty clear image. Down here is the color mode. This is what you're working in depending on if you're printing or making something just to be viewed on the computer. If it's just for on the computer, it's an RGB color. If it's for printing, it's CMYK. And you don't need to worry about these things. You could change the background color if you wanted to by clicking on that square. Usually it's white. It'll look like this. But if you click on it, you can change it. I'm going to do this pretty blue. And I hit create. You've got a couple things going on here. This is your canvas or your workspace. It always starts off as a background layer that's locked. This little lock prevents major changes from happening to your layer. Speaking of layers, this is your layers palette. You will hear me refer to things as palettes. This is a palette or a box. You can pop them in and out of your workspace. You can move them around to where you want them. If for whatever reason your palettes and your toolbar, which is over here, disappear, you go up to the window, down to workspace, and you choose reset essentials. And everything will pop back up where it was. So let's talk a little bit about some of the tools you might need. The first couple tools have to do with moving and selecting. This is your move tool. It does, surprisingly, move things. So if I have a picture, I'm going to drag a picture in here. I've got a nice picture of a cardinal over here on my desktop. So if I drag and drop that in, it starts off like that with a big X through it. You hit enter to make it stay. And now if I want to move that, I use my move tool. One of the other functions you're going to use a lot is resizing things. There's two quick ways to do this. You could go up to Edit, Free Transform, or you can hit Command and the letter T. Okay? So once I do that, this box pops up and I can resize things. Move it right there. Now notice it immediately put this on a new layer. Layers are important. Layers are like pages in your book for Photoshop, except they're see-through and you can stack things on top. So if I want this picture of this clownfish here, I can drag and drop that in, hit enter to place it, and right now it's on a layer above my cardinals. So they're not affecting each other, they're just kind of stacked. Anything above a layer will be on top of it. You can hide stuff underneath. Anything below will be underneath there. It's kind of like a sandwich, which you'll see that too. Let's talk about some of the tools. So if I want to select things, first off, I got to do something quickly to these. This is called rasterizing. Sometimes when you drag and drop stuff in, they become a smart object and they make your life harder. So I'm going to rasterize those real quick. I just right-clicked on these and chose that. I can also go to Layer, Smart Objects, or rasterize, or rasterize smart object. Now I'm able to do stuff to these. Before I wouldn't be able to do anything to them. A couple other basic tools, like I said, here's your rectangular selection. If I wanted to, I could just Command C, Command X to copy out my clownfish. Notice nothing happened. That's because I'm not clicked on any of my layers. In order to do something to a picture on a layer, I have to click on the layer first. If I hit Command X, that cuts out my picture. Command V pastes it. So now I could put my lovely clownfish over here and delete the frame around it. Anytime I want to make a new layer, this box is what you can do, or you can hit Command-Shift-N for new. If I need to delete a layer, like say I make a new one, I can come over here to the trash can and hit delete, or I can just click on it and hit the delete button. Other things I can do include other types of selections. So if I click and hold on my tools, there's a lot of different tools hiding underneath. Maybe I want to just select a circle of the cardinal. Command-X to copy. Uh-oh, I'm not on the right layer. Command-X, Command-V, puts it on a new layer by itself. And now I can get rid of my other one. Maybe you want to be a little more precise with your selections. You can use the lasso tool, which does exactly like you would think a lasso would do. It's a little more freeform. You can draw with your mouse. Sometimes it's not always super precise. But there I've just selected most of the clownfish. There's a couple different modes to selecting. If I need to add to stuff, click on this button. I could go in and add that little bit of fin I missed. Other selection things include the polygonal lasso tool. This is more like dot to dot, where you click, 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 click until you close the shape. You're not going to use this one a whole lot because it's finicky and it doesn't want to stop. I'm going to hit enter, Command-D to deselect. Other tools are in here. This is the quick selection tool. I like this one quite a bit. You can change whether you're selecting, adding, or minusing from a selection. If I click and drag, it's going to automatically snap to what it thinks I'm asking it to select. So if I come over here to the clownfish layer, as I drag, it's going to snap to those shapes. Computers are really smart, but you just have to give them time to think. So now if I want to just change the clownfish, I can do that. There's a couple other ones underneath here, like the magic wand. The magic wand selects by color. Quick selection selects by borders. There's a crop tool, which makes things smaller or bigger. There's a frame tool that you don't need to worry about yet. The eyedropper tool allows you to select colors from things. So my color pickers are down here. Right now I've got a dark reddish, brownish in my foreground and a black in my background. If I take my eyedropper, I click, it selects whatever pixel I'm clicking on. And then it changes it to my foreground color. This is the healing brush. You don't need to worry about that yet. This is your regular paintbrush. All of your tools have a size option up here. Once you click that little arrow, you can make them bigger or smaller. You can change the shape of them. And you can change the type down in here. This is the clone stamp. You don't need to worry about that yet. This is the eraser tool. If I want to erase stuff, this is where I go. I can change the size up here, or I can use the right and left bracket keys to make it bigger. Right bracket key makes it bigger, left bracket key makes it smaller, and I could erase out my poor clownfish. Oh no, I didn't want to do that. What can I do? I can either go up to Edit, Undo Eraser, or you'll notice there's a bunch of letters and stuff over here. These are your keyboard shortcuts. Just like Command-T, there's a Command-Z. Command-Z undoes your mistakes. You like Command-Z. This is your gradient tool. We'll talk more about that later. Smudge, burn, text, all kinds of stuff. Zoom in and out. You can also zoom in and out by hitting Command and plus or minus, depending on what you're doing. If I want to zoom in, it's Command plus. Get real close with that fishy. Command minus to zoom back out. Last but not least are all the color changing things, and we'll get to that in just a bit.